Just going into the multi-point programming. So in here, and I'll show you how to. I'll just walk through how you set that up and walk through the process you might want to go through. So you see this is the multi-point down the bottom here. So if I click on this here, it opens up bigger. So this is standard, right? So we paste. This is LV1, LV2, and we'll decide how we pick these in a minute. But basically looking for the links that are furthest apart, and you want more than 30mm separation between these two here. So you just use the measurements that the text give you on the leads, so the separation between the electrodes. And the delay here should be 5. I can make that anything I want. Well, not anything I want. I can make that up to 80 milliseconds. The problem with this is you paste LV1 first, and then 80 milliseconds later you paste this. This wavefront might have hit this. So then you have just effective single point pacing from here. And your wavefronts crash into that one, but you still deliver this pacing output. So you've wasted your energy, right? Now if there's a line of block here, there's a significant line of block between these two, then it might be interesting. Or if this is really slow. But if this is really slow conducting, it might be because it's in SCAR, and you probably shouldn't be pacing off it. So there may be times you want to do this, but usually, it could be SCAR and you shouldn't be pacing it at all, right?
So the default of 5 milliseconds is okay?
5 milliseconds is the narrowest you can get, because that's how long it takes to electronically flip a switch in a device. So there's no, when people say 0, there's no 0. It takes time to electronically make a switch, which is about 3 milliseconds, but we just round up to 5 because no one cares about 3. Okay? It's 3, 5. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay? So I'll just walk through. I'll just unprogram this off, and then we'll just go through. I'll walk through, and I'll do it in real time, right? So I'll show you how we can tune up a CRT or reprogram a heart, to get best possible outcomes. Okay? All right. So we'll start a clock. So it's 10 to 3 ish, 10ish to 3. So I'll do it real time, and I'll talk through how to do it. So we go from, so we've got non-optimized, he's on the table, we've got the lead in a good position, and we're going to go to the test button. So we hit tests, and then we're going to go to CRT toolkit. Okay? So CRT toolkit, and then we're going to start, this is where all of the optimization processes can take, okay? So the first step is to run this test here, perform auto vector select. It's going to measure capture thresholds automatically for lots of vectors, and it's also going to measure the RV to LV conduction time. So that's the QLV, right? LV conduction time is QLV. So I press that button and then hit perform measurements. You can do this in either a sensed mode or a paced mode. So if the patient has AV block, you pace their right ventricle, okay? And then you measure conduction times from RV pace to the LV electrode, okay? So RV, okay? And here's measuring the QLV. So that's a good QLV. This patient has a 150 milliseconds Q restoration, right? Anything in the final third of the QRS is what you want to be probably looking for, yeah? So that's good. That's good. This is probably going to be not so good. And you're moving apically here, right? So this is base, this is just medial, this is moving towards the apex, this is the apex probably, okay? Probably shouldn't be pacing that. Certainly shouldn't be pacing that single point, okay? But next we move on to thresholds. So I'm going to run 4 thresholds and just hit the button, okay? This is the automatic measurements from our LV lead. So you don't even have to look at it. It just does it yourself. So it passes us, it will do a safety test, see whether it can measure thresholds, okay? If it can measure thresholds, it will run a threshold, okay? So it's cancelled this one, it doesn't like this one. It says it hasn't passed the safety test, or the threshold is more than 3.5 volts. You don't really want to be going much above 3.5 volts, because at 3.5 volts, you're above the operating battery voltage, so your effect on longevity becomes more significant, okay? Off it goes, it's doing testing with 3 to RV coil. So we'll run this test. Sometimes people ask, why are you testing to the coil? What's the point of that? Why don't you test to the ring electrode or anything like that? The reason it's nice to pace to the coil is that if you're pacing, let's say, 4 to 2, right? P4 to M2, and you get a threshold of 3 volts. Where was it capturing? You don't know. Could be capturing at 4, could be capturing at 2, right? You can have anodal stimulation on the same LV lead. Whereas if you make it to coil, it can only capture on the RV lead, okay? So this, and it's the same with phrenic nerve stim, right? With phrenic nerve stim, if you're pacing 4 to 2 and you've got phrenic nerve stim, where's the phrenic nerve? Is it at 2 or is it at 4? Or at both? Okay? If you go 4 to coil and it phrenic stims, it's at 4. Then you go to 2 and it does to coil, it doesn't, okay? So you can anodally capture the phrenic nerve as well, which is a bit of a surprise sometimes, okay? So I've seen people totally exclude the whole left ventricular lead for phrenic nerve along the whole LV lead, which is unusual anatomically, but it was because every circuit they tested had 2 in it. So they were 1 to 2, phrenic nerve, 2 to 4, phrenic nerve, 3 to 2, phrenic nerve, 4 to 2, phrenic nerve. And they were like, this leads capturing every electrode. I was like, okay, it's just on 2. Yeah, they were like, oh. Fortunately, they didn't operate. We just programmed it off 2 and it's all fine. So the phrenic nerve was just at 2. So it's doing it's running the threshold, as I said, but we don't even look at it, right? So it delivers LV pacing and then an RV backup pulse. LV pace, RV backup pulse. So it says bi-V pacing, right? But actually, first thing is an LV pulse, and then it brings in an RV backup pulse about 90 milliseconds after it. Okay, so if the LV electrode doesn't capture at all, you've got a backup in the RV. So we've nearly done our 4 thresholds. As soon as here we go, last threshold doing it. It takes about a minute for each one of these tests. This is the longest part, right? So bringing the voltage up, but down and down and down and come that. So we've lost capture. So the threshold here is 1.5. Okay. So now, all these are basically unipolar measurements. So I'm not going to leave it unipolar, but we'll come back to that at the end. Because unipolar measurements give you a lower resistance, and I want to push the resistance up. But I want to confirm that I've got capture on the cathode, not any anodal stuff. So next step down the bottom here, I want to check whether there's phrenic nerve stimulation. So I'm going to do phrenic nerve stim on every one of these electrodes, okay, or every one of these vectors. So 1 to coil, check phrenic nerve. You look at the patient, the device can't work it out, no phrenic nerve. I will do the next one. So 2 to coil. So isolating the cathode, right? Forget about the anode. Let's say there's phrenic nerve there. So there's phrenic nerve on 2 to coil. Oops, wrong way. 3 to coil, coming up, phrenic nerve, and there is no phrenic nerve. And I'm not going to test 4 because I've got a high threshold, right? So I'm ignoring it. Leave it alone. So now you can see I'm filling this box up with information. I'm filling this box up with information, and the next step is I'm going to press this latest activation button. The latest activation takes you to the latest activation site on the left ventricular lead that has the threshold less than 3.5 and no phrenic nerve. So it's gone for M3 to coil. Yeah, that makes sense? So this is guideline-based single point pacing. Go to a late activate, basically go to a late activated site, right? That's what European heart rhythm regulations are, or guidance is, right? Go late. So I'm going to program that in, and this is away from the base as well, away from the apex, right? This is almost always going away from the apex. In that goes. So now we're pacing at the right site, but with no AV or VV optimization yet. Okay? So we can either bring an echo machine in, or we can close this box and then go down to this quick op button. So perform quick op, and it tells you what it does. It tries to get optimal values, hit perform quick op, and then start test. So it's going to go DDI at 40. First step is the ASense test, measuring the duration of the P wave. Right? Because we don't want to pace before the P wave's ended, and we don't want to pace too far away from the P wave. Otherwise we'll have diastolic mitral regurgitation and all that nonsense, right? So it's done that one. Next step is the V-sense mode. So the pacemaker wants to know, is the patient in left bundle or right bundle? So if we go to sense mode, it can tell that, right? Because it looks which side activates first. So he's worked out he's in left bundle. And now it's measuring speed of conduction from RV to LV. So how quickly does it take from the RV electrode to get to M3? Yeah? So we need to do this after we select our electrode. Next step is we pace the left ventricle on L3. How long does that take to get to the RV lead? Now we have a little calculation that then can work out where the electrical midpoint between those two is. And it gets reasonably close, okay? Okay, it gets reasonably close most of the time. Here it says simultaneous. It's rare for it to say simultaneous. Very rare. It's normally 20, 30, 40 milliseconds. Okay, you should probably always have a VV offset because of the epi to endo conduction time. Okay, nominal on most ICDs though is 0, right, which is probably not good. Well, it's not good, I think. Hit program, and now we have set up program again, and so now we have got a optimal or close to optimal AV, VV delay and good single point pacing. So at this point, I pressed 12 lead ECG. This will be the second ECG I did. The first one I did was one at the beginning. This is the single point, and I will measure the QRS duration. Okay. I might, at this point, make some changes to the VV offset if I thought it was a little bit off, okay? I might just manually go in and make some changes. But normally this gets pretty close. So now I've measured the QRS duration and maybe it's gone to, off a 12 lead, and maybe it's gone to 130 from 170. So that's an improvement, the patient will probably respond, but I want to see if I can get it lower. If the patient has normal PR interval, less than 210-ish, you should think about running Sync AV. Okay, so press Sync AV, and Sync AV will measure the patient's PR interval, and it will pace the left stroke right ventricle with the VV offset at 50 less than their intrinsic. Okay, so we're allowing some of the wavefronts to come through the AV node, activate the right bundle, start to activate the septum. Okay, so and this is quick moving wavefronts, right? These are reasonably quick moving wavefronts because they're in intrinsic, they're in right bundle. So we use that wavefront and the RV and the LV pace. So I program that in, and you'll see on the screen it will do. So it's programmed in, and it will do coming up, coming up, coming up. So here's the Sync AV: 1, 2, 3 beats. Measure intrinsic conduction. Set the AV delay according to the intrinsic conduction PR interval. Okay, and it does that periodically. It does it every 256 cycles. Okay, every 256 cycles, it repeats that measurement. The reason why we repeat that measurement is that patients' catecholamine levels, their exercise changes, right? So their PR interval will change. We had a great case on a table last year where a patient was in on an EP table. We give isoprenoline because things weren't happening, an EP's friend, isn't it? Isoprenoline, you check that into them, see what happens. So we give them some isoprenoline, their heart rate went up, their intrinsic conduction through the AV node slickened up, and they went into left bundle because they conducted through the AV node. So we were sitting there, he went into left bundle, and then this Sync AV came in and shortened the AV delays. So they went left bundle, intrinsic, 3 beats, and then an optimized CRT. So it's doing that periodically every 256 cycles, repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay, so at this point I've measured the QRS and go, okay, is it shorter than what I got before? If it is, great. We can, as well, optimize this number here. And we've got some nice data that suggests that actually, if we really want to really get really good results, we should move this number around, right? So we should program probably to -30. -30, program. Measure QRS, global QRS duration. Okay? And then probably go, and then the other thing to program to, because there's lots of measurements here, and we could do tons of measurements, and then go to -70. See which one gives you the narrowest QRS. Okay? And then go with that one. Alright? So now we've got fusion-based CRT, RV, LV, and intrinsic. We have one more option to take. The last option to take is to consider using 2 sites of pacing on the left ventricular lead, okay? So we can access that by pressing this button here. So access multi-vector, so we go from here to here, to here, to here. It's a little bit backwards the way the engineers set it up, but I don't think they realised that we would be doing so much of this stuff. So access multi-vector tools, and then you have latest activation, this is single, this is multi-point, this is multi-point. This is what we choose. We choose the widest spacing, okay? So the widest geographical spacing between the leads is most likely to give you the best results. We press that button here. There is 5 milliseconds between the 2 LV pulses, and then the delay between the LV and the RV is what came out of QuickOp, yeah? So it's whatever it was. It was 0 on this, but it's not normally 30 milliseconds. Hit program, you can see it's pacing 1, and it's pacing 3. So these are pacing at the same time, and the RV is a little bit delayed maybe, and we have intrinsic coming through. So we have two wavefronts coming from the left ventricle, one wavefront coming from the RV, and multiple wavefronts coming from their intrinsic conduction. Okay? So this you can see potentially maximal QR restoration shortening. So if we saw a further 10 milliseconds reduction using that, we'd consider doing that. Absolutely consider doing that. And that would be the end of the test. That would be the end of the optimization. Okay? Does that make sense as we go through that step-by-step approach? Yeah. Okay. It's good to do it plain. Get the other guys to come in. They can walk through this process with you and show and get some, collect some nice ECGs. The last thing that you want to do, though, the very final thing you want to do is to optimize the battery, right? So we can optimize the battery by not pacing to the coil. This produces generally a lower impedance of like 400. Right, so what I would do is I would just do a threshold of 1 to 2, pace 1 to 2. Be careful with 2 because we just noticed we had frening nerve in it, right? So I'd go 1 to 2, check frening nerve, that's okay, that's good. And then here I would probably go 3 to 4. Okay, this will then boost the impedance of each of those electrodes by probably about 400 ohms, which will have a not insignificant effect on longevity. I'll do 2 thresholds, quick frenetic test, and then we're optimized. Okay. So that would be a relatively, normally we can get this done by the time a doctor's finished sewing up. Normally, not always, but usually you can get it in the sew-up time. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. Right. This is a broken projector. This is a dual chamber ICD put in for primary prevention reasons. How many EP doctors have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. We're going to need your skills shortly. It'll be too easy, but think this is a test? No unicorns. No unicorns, all donkeys. Okay, so this is a dual chamber ICD, primary prevention reasons. Do you think that device setup is reasonable? So here's this tachy setup. So we've got a VT1 zone at 150. We've got a VT2 zone at 181 and a VF zone at 230. Reasonable? We're okay with that? Yeah, that's nice primary prevention settings, right? So that's kind of primary prevention settings that we mostly program. Actually, has got a lot of episodes though, and then we're set DDD at 40 with he has got a VIP programmed on. All lead impedances are normal, but he has got 3 alerts. Okay, let's scroll through. This is one of his VTs, right? He's got a VT1, right?
The RV capture is threshold.
RV capture is, oh yeah, NA. Yeah, we didn't bother measuring it. It was okay, honestly. Okay, everything's normal. This is VT1. So this is in the lower VT zone. Remember, the lower VT zone is a monitor zone. So,
we're not sure.
not sure.
Not sure. We
You
want
can
to
use
see before or
index.
after.
No. I could do, but that'd be too easy.
You can use non-invasive studies.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, you could do. But what is this? What does this look like? What if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it flies like a duck, it's probably a duck, right?
AVNRT or
AVNRT. No. Yeah. AVNRT. No. It's like, yeah. This looks like AVNRT. Yeah. Yeah. Why does it look like AVNRT? Because the A's and the V's line up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, A and V's line up.
But it could be also
Junctional tachycardia, maybe.
The junctional tachycardia, what else could it be? It could be sinus tachycardia or an atrial tachy with a long PR interval, right? Potentially. But a long PR interval, right? With a huge PR interval. That would be unusual. So the markers, just to check some of the markers on the device, Can you see these numbers? 99, 98, 98, 100, 99, 98. That is the scoring for the morphology algorithm, right? So that's saying that the ventricular signal is 98, 99, 100% similar to something that the device stored itself that came through the AV node. Okay? Alright? So that means that this signal here looks like stuff that comes through the AV node. Okay? So now we know it's not a VT. It's highly unlikely to be a VT. Yeah, highly unlikely. There's always tricks in, you know. The A and the V's line up as well. So this looks like AV and RT. Is it AV and RT rate? It's 180 beats a minute. How many AV and RTs happen at 180 beats a minute? 180. Yeah, it's an AV and RT-ish rate, right? It's pretty. AV and RT often happens at those sort of rates, right? 180-ish, right? That's why I don't like programming devices at 180, because it captures all the AV and RT. Although it's quite nice, because then you can ablate it, right? Or do whatever you want, or give it some drugs, okay? Yeah? So you're right, we could form a pacing maneuver. So this is what we think is going on. We've got slow pathway, fast pathway, slow pathway, fast pathway, slow pathway, fast pathway. It's AV and RT, right? Looks like AV and RT. So you could go into the programmer, do an antegrade curve, make an antegrade curve, bring it down, off we go. Back into AV and RT, brilliant. Make sure you turn the device off before you do that though, because could be a problem. Okay, but the device appropriately discriminated this. So the device, well, actually the device didn't appropriately discriminate. If you look down the bottom, I lied, but I've corrected my lie. If you look here, this is the diagnosis that the device has made. The device has said it's VT, heart rate is 164, it's lying a little bit there, it's a little bit faster, 170 up to 180. And the device said it was in the V greater than A branch. So the device thinks there's more V's than A's. This device is stupid. Clearly, there are not more. Correct. The atrium is, see here? Here's the V stick, there's the A stick, there's the V, no A stick. The A, because it's happening so quickly, is in PVAB and being blanked. So the device says it's AV and RT. The device says it's VT. I have more V's than A's. And that's the very top level, if you like, of discrimination on the device. If it says more V's than A's, it's VT, don't look at anything else, deliver ATP. Usually ATP stops this. It's quite good. ATP is quite stopped. So it's an appropriately inappropriate therapy. I like to say that to the doctors sometimes. And they look at me and go, you're sort of right. Sort of. Okay, so that's slow pathway. Okay. And then he had this. So when I said it was going to get difficult, this is the difficult. So you had an AMS episode. Atrial channel, ventricular channel. So anyone want to tell me what rhythm that might be? Just straight looking at it, what do you think? A channel, V channel. VT. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Looks like VT. Yeah. There are lots of ventricular events, just looking at it, and not so many atrial events. Looks like VT, right? So everyone's like, we've got VT. You're saying no.
It's not very dissociated.
It looks like VT, right? If you have more V's than A's, you know, unless it's a unicorn, it's VT, right? I know there are AV and RTs that can have more V's than A's, right? But they're rare, right? So so this was a patient of a consultant in Oxford called Kim Rajapan. Has Kim been here? Anyone know Kim? Kim Rajapan, probably the nicest doctor on the planet. He's a really nice guy. Anyway, this is his patient. So he sent this to me. He said, "Paul, this guy's got this and this and this." And he said, well, what are all these things going on? What's this? VSP. Ventricular safety pacing. Yeah, that's ventricular safety pacing. So the device atrially paces, so there's so much going on in this electrogram, right? It atrially paces. Does it see this R wave? There's no marker, so it doesn't see it, right? But it did see it. But it was in blanking period. It was in the in the safety pacing window, okay? So when we atrially pace, we blank the ventricle, initial blanking, and then after that we have a little time called the cross-channel, the safety pacing window. If we see something in the safety pace window, we safety pace, okay? And that would be 120 milliseconds after the atrial pace. Because if it's a PVC that we've seen in the cross-channel blanking, in the cross-channels thing, we want to pace early, otherwise we'll pace in the T-wave with the PVC and then we'll get VF and they'll die, right? Well, not die because you've got an ICD because it will shock him out, right? You know what I mean? Okay, so, okay. And then what happens? Then we have this. What is this? It's the next beat of VT, right? Or is it? And then we have, what the hell is this? What's going on here? PVCs? It's really complicated, right? But, right, if you break it down, it becomes really uncomplicated. So it's like the storybook, start left, work your way through it, right? Okay, by the way, remember what we have already seen on this patient. We have already seen this. Dual pathways. Yeah? He's got dual pathways, right? This is important. So Kim Rajapan, he's an EP. See? Anyway. A pace. Does it capture?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I think this captures. Yeah, it's captured. There's a bump on the baseline. I think this captures. The output on that atrial lead is, let's go back to the start. The output on that atrial lead is 2 volts. The threshold is 1. So we're capturing, right? We've got 100% safety margin, no reason to suspect it's going to lose capture. Let's go back to the electrogram. A pace. Where does the depolarization wavefront go to? This A, and you're going to have to bear with me, you're not going to believe me to begin with. This A goes to this V. Okay? This is slow pathway conduction. So A to V. So that's slow, right? Okay? This A is a spontaneous A. Don't think this could be retrograde conduction, but this A goes to this V, shorter conduction time. A pace, capture to this V. A pace, shorter conduction time. A pace, A sensory, conducts through to V. A, V, A, V, A pace, V, A, V, A, V, A, V, A, V, A. So it's just one-to-one conduction. It's not VT anymore, is it? All right. So we can see this patient's dual mode kind of conduction going on in this electrogram. Okay. Could that be going? This could be the retrograde conduction and then conducting back down again potentially. Probably is. It's hard to say. And then slow, A pace, slow, fast, slow, slow. So it's like slow, fast, or whatever, some other nonsense, right? Interrupted by atrial pacing. So what are you going to do with this patient? So I've kind of annotated it on the next one. What do you want to do with this patient? Burn him. Yeah? Or just give him some drugs to begin with. See if we can stop it. And then here's an initiation of his SVT. So the device picked it up as an SVT this time. So we can see there's an SVT ending here. Here's the end of an SVT. P wave, R wave. P wave, R wave, APB conducts through. There's the start of the atrial attack, right? There's the A that opens up the pathways, right? That creates the imbalance. This A then goes long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. Yep.
Start with jump.
This is the jump here. Jump. Echo. Then we're off into an ambient RT, okay? But yeah, that is a very, very confusing electrogram. And almost everybody that sees that says, it's VT. Everybody, even Kim. Kim is a superb consultant. And I had to sit down with him for about an hour, go through it, and then I had to do it again, and then again, and then again. Okay, but yeah, this is and there's all the markers are doing weird stuff here. There's blanking of this one here is blanking this A pace is totally blanking this ventricular signal here. Look, A pace totally blanks it. Ventricular pace is here. Luckily, it didn't capture. Because this is in a totally this is in vulnerable period here. Look, don't like that. So we're doing we're doing a bit of a VT stim as well. So the fix here is probably no programming fix. It's get the EP guys to sort them out, or give them some more beta blockers or whatever else you give them to fix avian otitis. Yeah. Excellent. There's his SVT. So that's our patient. I'll do one more. I'm sure you're all. One more.